Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 230, I believe, of the SoxProspects.com podcast. We're the web's number one source for information on the Boston Red Sox farm system from top to bottom, from Fort Myers to Worcester, across the Pike to Fenway, and all stops in between, including Houston. Thank you all for listening. My name is Chris Hatfield. I am the executive editor of Sox Prospects, and I am joined, as always, by our director of scouting, a man who's giving it his all, but he's not the guy you're taking home. No, Ian Cundall is dancing on his own. Ian, we're going into the... You have no idea what I'm referring to right now. That's sad. That's so sad.
Well, no, there's a song, I'm sure, but that was weird. So I'm just going to act like that didn't happen. And we're still talking about the Red Sox, which is that's fun. I mean, they defeated the Tampa Bay Rays, and we get to talk about playoff baseball. And now we're into the 7-game series stretch, which is always fun.
Yeah. I mean, look, no one saw this coming entering the year. Nobody say you did, because you didn't. But just enjoy it while it's lasting, man.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like, even if they had lost to the Rays, it was a successful season. They made strides with the major league team. They made strides with creating sustainable future, and they made great strides with the farm.
Money.
Now you're in the ALCS. Like, yeah, you're playing with house money. Enjoy it. Enjoy the ride. It's a very likable team, and I think it kind of just taking a bigger picture look. I do think it shows that the Red Sox were 100% right to rehire Alex Cora. Like, he is an incredible manager.
At least on field. Field.
Yeah, I don't really care about the other stuff. But he's an incredible manager. The way he handles the team, where he keeps everyone in check, he knows how to pull their strings and push the right buttons to get the best out of everyone. And I just think the job he did against the Rays, I think he outmanaged Kevin Cash in that series significantly.
No question.
And I think that's a part of why they won. Was Cora he was on it. He was pulling guys early. He was doing everything right. Whereas I thought some of the Rays moves were really weird. Like, I have no idea why McClanahan was in that game in Game 4.
Let me cut you off there. Let's do all our intro stuff, and then we're going to get into that a little bit more. We're going to have an addendum on our roster talk from last week. We're going to examine why the changes to the ALDS roster that we didn't really see coming, and we'll look at whether anything's coming for the ALCS. And of course, we'll get to your emails. Only have one this week, and if you want to shoot us an email, the address is podcast@soxprospects.com. We always say we want to talk about what you want to hear about, so hit us up there, and you can always support the podcast a couple of ways. First of all, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever it is that you listen to the show. It's always appreciated. And of course, you can support us on patreon.com/SoxProspects. Pledge a certain amount per episode. You get some neat perks, including access to the Patreon game updates, some other neat stuff, our exclusive Patreon supporter monthly rankings update content. You can catch that there. We just updated our rankings on the website. We're going to hit those up on another episode down the line. Not a ton of movement is part of why we're kind of pushing that back. We'll talk about why guys are moving up and down. But our official season end rankings aren't going to be until the end of the Arizona Fall League, which starts tonight as we sit here on Wednesday the 13th recording. Connor Siebold getting the opening night start for Scottsdale down in Arizona. So we're going to get some data from there, some data potentially, but maybe not, from the fall camp down in Fort Myers. It's not technically a fall instructional league because they're not playing anyone, but get some data from down there. Maybe not. But yeah, the official season end rankings will come in November. But you can check out the site, SoxProspects.com, to check out our updated rankings. And yeah, we're going to talk about some playoff baseball again. So let's, I guess, dive right into it. Let's recap the Rays series, because we were already starting to go down that line. And Ian, just to kind of lead you back into where you were, it felt a little bit like the Red Sox exposed some of the holes is the wrong word, but the shortcomings of the Rays model, where you mentioned Alex Cora, and I one thing that I don't even know who I forget who I heard this from or saw saying this, but it felt like Cora was managing in game, whereas Kevin Cash was managing from a script to some degree.
Yeah, I agree.
Which is what we saw last year with the Snell game.
Yeah, and it kind of that's their model, and I give them credit in the sense that they stick to it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, They're
No
going to go
question.
down with their ship, and
I thought you were going to say something else, but yes.
No, that they like they're going to go if that's how they're going to play. That's what got them there, and they trust it. And I do think that works really well in the regular season, but I do think in the playoffs you need more flexibility. And I think what Cora does so well is he just has really good feel for management.
Yes.
He knows when he's not willing to say this isn't working, I screwed up, I'm changing it. He will, he'll take guys out early. He just pinch runs, pinch hits when it's necessary. Like he just does a lot of in-game little things well that might not show up in the score sheet necessarily, but I think that can be easily overlooked. Like I think, like for example, when it was, Brazier, he gave him 3 batters and was like, this isn't working, I'm going to Whitlock. It was a 5-5 game. Like he could have gone to someone else in a tie game, blah, blah, blah. Nope, we're going straight to the closer. Or another one, like after Erod, he got, 5 good innings. This is in game 4. Gets 5 good innings out of Erod, brings in Houck. Houck wasn't as good as he was in the previous game, and you could have tried to squeeze an extra batter out of him. Nope, we're going to Taylor this time.
Yeah.
Like, he's trying to put his pitchers and his hitters in positions to be successful. And I just think Kevin Cash, some of the stuff, like, as I said, I have no idea what McClanahan was doing in that game. Like, he was pitching on short rest.
So which game you're talking about? Let's
game
set
4.
Yep.
Game 4. He was pitching on short rest for the first time in his career.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about a guy who has started all year. He's obviously been kept on a pretty strict pitch count for a lot of the games, and he was excellent against the Red Sox. But, how is he staying in long enough to give up 5 hits? Like, I don't know. And I think that is, as you said, part of the issue is at the end of the day, they don't have true starting pitchers. The guys they were running out was basically 3 rookies were their starters in the playoffs. In McClanahan, Baz, and Rasmussen. And Rasmussen was a reliever to start the year.
The game 4 starter was going to be Luis Patino.
And if
he hadn't pitched in game 3.
And he was in the minors and was a reliever to start the year also earlier in the year.
Right.
And it's just, this is the thing is, they tried to get by with their usual, we'll throw guys whenever we want, all these different guys. But in the playoffs, I just think it's a different animal, and you do need length. Otherwise, your bullpen is going to be taxed, and that's what we saw from them. I think their guys were just getting tired because they just getting, you had guys pitching 3-4 games of those series, whereas you look at what the Red Sox were able to do because they were able to get 5-6 innings out of their guys. Whitlock, because they had Pavetta, like they were able to save guys. Like in game 3, you only had to use Whitlock for an inning. That allowed you to bring him back in game 4 for 2 innings. Mm-hmm. You had Pavetta, thankfully. I mean, Pavetta heroic performance going 4 innings in game 3. And I think someone said it really well on Twitter this is why you don't ever give up on stuff. Pavetta's stuff is excellent when it's on, except it just was not always on. And you saw how fired up he was. Like that was the moment he was looking for, and he did it. But yeah, I just think that the way Cora managed the series was immaculate, and I think it just showed that the Red Sox had a very good year, but the Rays were the class of the division. I don't think the gap between them was as big as the standings indicated. I think the Rays were a better regular season team, but I do think the way the Red Sox bats have come alive and the way their pitchers have come alive in the right situations showed that, this is still a team to be reckoned with. And they have every chance to beat the Astros.
I would say I agree with that at this point of the season.
Yeah, that's what I say. Like right now.
Which I think is what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, right now. In the regular season, obviously, I would have the Astros were a better team. But right now, it's going to come down to it's going to come down to pitching and health. And right now, we don't know what's going on with Lance McCullers. That's a huge deal for Houston. That's their ace, and he was dominant in 2 starts versus the White Sox.
Well, before we get into the Astros, just the couple last things on the Tampa series before we move on. First, I don't think there's anything to say about the Hunter Renfroe play, right? I mean, it is what is
there to say? Like, it's the right. It's they interpreted the rule correctly. Like, is it a stupidly written rule? Yes, but like at the end of the day, the rule is a cookie cutter rule, and Kevin Cash didn't argue it, which was the first. The way Cash didn't go ballistic was the first indicator to me that he knew the rule, and he was like, yeah.
Well,
and
hat tip to Red Sox stats.
Yeah, hat tip Red Sox stats who dug up the footage that showed that Cash had that rule benefit them a couple years ago against the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
when a ball was hit to, I think it was first and second with 2 outs. Ball was hit to Tommy Pham,
And left.
and Pham bobbled it and booted it out into the left field, like third base area.
Was that the
over the
Benintendi
fence.
corner? Were they at home or were they in Toronto?
No, they were in Toronto.
Okay.
And
Yeah, that makes sense because
yeah,
of the bounce off of their
yeah,
turf.
bounced off the turf,
Bouncier.
it hit his knee and then went into the stands, and he argued it and got it, and it was a double. And so it's the exact same call. So
Yeah.
this isn't like, it was just it's just a weird one. I think the one that made that one weird was the way it hit the fence.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it just is something I've not seen in that, in that situation before. And did it benefit the Red Sox? Absolutely. But, I don't think it's not like the umpires blew the call or made something up. This is a written rule in the rule book. Like, the umps don't have any discretion there.
My wife is a Rays fan, and we were sitting in the living room, and I was, before they started, I've mentioned this on the show before. I used to umpire. I was patched in the Merrimack Valley Umpires Association. Shout out. And I was telling her, no, it's 2 bases. Like, there's no umpire discretion on that at all. Like, it's in the book. And she was like arguing with me about it. I was like, no. And then I went and found the rule. Needless to say, I almost wound up sleeping on the couch that night, but did wind up getting let back into my bedroom, which was good. But yeah, I mean, that's the rule. It is what it is. So, hey, sorry about it. Could have easily gone the other way. Yeah, I mean, the other thing too, would you have left McHugh in for longer in Game 4? What was he through 2 innings on like 18 pitches? Like, I don't know. I felt like he had another one in him, but
I probably would have. But I think it's one of those, they scripted the game. He was going to go 2, and then McClanahan was going to come in.
Exactly.
So that's just kind of what the McClanahan thing just was so weird to me, though, because I don't know what were they going to do for Game 5. Like, he was supposed to start game, but Baz was coming on short rest, having only pitched like 2. It was just weird.
Well, it's because the way they had to use their bullpen, and this is part of the way the Red Sox are built right now. It's like they're almost even in the bullpen. Their pitching staff is not better, but the way the staff is designed, it's almost better for the same usage that they used in 2018 with the Rover, where
and they have 2 really good rovers right now.
Yeah, one of which can throw setup, and it's whereas like that year they basically had nothing. Like, even they had no good relief pitcher except for Joe Kelly. Like, even Kimbrel was terrifying.
Whereas this year, I think clearly Garrett Whitlock's the closer. Like,
no question.
He is their high leverage, fireman reliever.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen him come in, 9th inning, 8th inning, like he's doing it all this playoffs, and I assume they'll be very aggressive using him again.
Mm-hmm.
Some combination of Brazier, Robles, Houck if he's not used earlier, and Taylor are the setup guys.
Yep, no question.
And then
Ottavino and Barnes are in no man's land.
I don't know what Ottavino and Barnes' role is really.
Ottavino hasn't pitched.
And Barnes pitched once in that the first game, right, in the blowout.
33, for 33 pitches.
Yeah,
and okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trusting him, but
yeah. And then Austin Davis is your mid-innings lefty guy.
Yeah, Austin Davis, yeah, exactly. And then Perez is your, oh crap, we're down 7-0 in the second inning. We need someone to pitch the rest of the game guy.
Right, and maybe that's a good segue, perhaps. Last week in the episode, we talked about changes we saw coming for the ALDS roster. Obviously, Chris Sale and possibly JD Martinez were getting added back. We said that Jonathan Aruz was coming off, and then for the other one, you either remove Jaron Duran or Connor Wong, or who was what pitcher? Oh, Garrett Richards. Which that's the other thing. Richard, the fact that Barnes didn't even make the roster. But those were the moves we saw coming. The moves we did not see coming were the additions. We mentioned the possibility of adding Danny Santana, and they did add Danny Santana, removing. So both Wong and Duran came off along with Aruz. The one we didn't see coming at all was the addition of Martin Perez in place of Matt Barnes. Barnes eventually gets added back onto the roster when Garrett Richards hurt his hamstring in Game 1. And he's also not available for the ALCS, for those who are wondering. He's out until a potential World Series. even if the hamstring feels fine. That we didn't see coming. There's the reasons they stated publicly, and there's the reasons that I think they did them. But maybe let's start with the, removal of the 3 Worcester guys is what I'll refer to Wong, Aruz, and Duran as. Obviously Martinez and Sale. Santana for Duran, Ian, we were talking about this before. It comes down to defensive versatility and trust, I think.
Yeah, I think it's, Duran had his metrics were atrocious in center field in his major league time, and backed up what we've seen and kind of been talking about from his time in the minors. He's just not a very good defensive center fielder right now. And with his struggles at the plate, he would be relegated to singularly pinch running. And that's fine. I mean, that has a role. But with Danny Santana, he's a little bit slower, not that much slower. He's one of the faster guys on the team, though. And he can play first base, outfield, and they probably could, if they really had to, put him at second, short, or third. He didn't play there at all, any of those this year, but he has in the past couple of years. And yeah, I just think that his ability to play multiple defensive positions gives them more flexibility off the bench should something happen in game, or should they, have a 13-inning game where they have to make a bunch of changes. Yeah,
and it's for less of a drop off in speed than what they gain there defensively. And it gives Cora more to work with in late innings. Because it allows him to be more aggressive, and
yes. In this, let's say that he wants to pinch hit for, I don't know, Alex Verdugo against a tough lefty with Bobby Dahlbeck. That way, if they want to take Schwarber out of the game for defense, they could put Dahlbeck at first and put Santana in the outfield, or right. Vice versa. Like if Dahlbeck's playing first base and they could, if they want to keep Schwarber in the game, they move Schwarber to the outfield and put Santana at first base, right. Like things like that. It gives them more flexibility.
Right. And then the other one with Martin Perez in for Matt Barnes, Alex Cora said publicly it was to get a third lefty. I believe that in part, but the unspoken part, which is one that he can't come out and say, is that in a 5-game series and now coming up in a 7-game series, you need the guy who's going to fall on the sword.
Mm-hmm. And I think it was going to be Richards in that series also potentially, but now Richards is out. So right. They just don't have, without Perez, they have no one who can go more than, 2 innings who you are okay with doing that in a right. blowout. Right. Because you don't want to have to burn Pavetta or Houck in a blowout. That'd be the worst possible thing that could happen, is not only you're down, but you lose them for the next game or potentially multiple games. Mm-hmm. And so by having Perez on the roster, you get that extra lefty, but you also have as you said, the, break glass in case of emergency guy to throw deep into games if they need to.
And to be clear, it's not like they're going to leave their starting pitcher in until they're down 7-0, right? At that point, you've burned 3 relievers, right? Or at least when you're down by enough to bring in Perez for that role. But I mean, I think it's telling that Perez and Ottavino were the only 2 guys who didn't pitch. I think Ottavino I think it's like with when they pitched Barnes in that series, it's finding a game where you're up by enough to get him some work to see what you have.
Well, I think publicly, Dave Bush, which was interesting, came out in an article, I believe it was on The Athletic, and basically was like, we might have misused them early in the season. And
yep. Oh yeah.
I think he said something along the lines of, there were situations where we brought them into, deficits or tie games when in mm-hmm. hindsight, we probably shouldn't have done that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we talked about. I think in our pre-trade deadline podcast, we talked about how both Barnes and Ottavino were on pace for career highs in innings and appearances coming off a year where they threw 30 innings combined. Mm-hmm. And that was just scary to me. And this is what we saw, both of their stuffs as the season went on, dramatically dropped off. And, you've gone from the point where those guys were your setup guys to now nobody's trusting them in any sort of pressure situation.
Right. And I mean, Barnes was an all-star, man.
Yeah. And that's why it's such a weird situation right now, because on the one hand, they don't really serve a purpose on the roster, but at the same time, I don't really know they have any options to put on instead of them.
Well, and that's when people would bring up Sawamura and Darwinzon Hernandez.
But I don't trust Sawamura. It's he gave up, I think it was 11 home runs this year. He's or how many was it? 9 home runs this year.
It's 1.5 homers per 9.
32 walks and 53 innings. You're not pitching him in a leverage situation And at least with those other guys, maybe you can catch lightning in the bottle in the right matchup. Whereas with Salmore, I just don't see the purpose he serves on the roster. Like, the only one I'd maybe say is Darwinzon, because he would give you a third lefty to use early in the game, so you don't have to burn Perez for that reason. But at the same time, like, they didn't ever. I don't think they ever used 2 lefties in one game, other than the long games.
Because
so
of
like,
the 3 batter rule.
Yeah.
And like you were saying before we started recording, the Astros have 3 terrifying lefties, but they're surrounded by righties who destroy left-handed pitching.
Yeah, like Alex Bregman, Gurriel, those guys just murder lefties. And so it's like, do you really want Austin Davis facing Alex Bregman in a pressure situation?
I can't think of something I want less.
Do you want Darwinzon Hernandez doing that, especially with diminished stuff, which he showed in the second half? Absolutely not. So it's
I would rather Tanner Houck face a lefty.
Yeah, so it's like they're kind of almost stuck with they have to put those guys on and hope that they can, as you said, find a situation to use them. Because otherwise you're basically playing with like a 10-man pitching staff, you're playing 2 pitchers down. So you're playing, what are they carrying? 13 pitchers. So it'd be like an 11-man pitching staff.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, that's fine. You can make do with that. Just not if you're pulling your starter out after 2 innings every game, which they're comfortable doing. And maybe that's the other thing you wanted to get into with Houck.
Is that, with Houck, I know there's been some people who would like to start him in the next series, but I just don't. I think he's more valuable to the team in the role he's currently in, and we saw it last series. You know, he was set up one game and he pitched 5 innings to carry after Sale was really bad in the other. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I would much rather have him for, where I don't want to be going into a situation where, well, we have to save Tanner Houck for Game 4 start. Like, you could be down 3-0 at that point. What's the point? Like, other than Garrett Whitlock and Houck, I would say those are the 2 guys I trust the most in the bullpen right now. And I don't think it's that close.
It's not.
And so if you take Houck out of there, like, how are you getting to Whitlock? Are you going to be comfortable with like Hansel Robles, like guys like Brazier? Like, I don't know what I'm getting them from.
Brazier was getting into that tier, but then with his last,
but then he got tanked. He got in the last game. He got tanked. Like, and so I think Houck is too valuable in the role he's in, where, you know, Game 1 is probably going to be Eovaldi. You'd like to think he'll give you a good start. Game 2 is Sale. I have no clue what they're going to get out of Chris Sale. I don't think they know what they're going to get out of Chris Sale. I don't even know if they think if they're 100% certain he's going to start a game. Like, who knows what they're going to do?
Yeah.
But like, if they're starting Sale, I need a bulk guy to follow him. And in a 7-game series, you need 4 starters with the way the schedule goes. Because you play 2 games, you have an off day, you play 3 games. You play an off day, and then you have 2 more, if you go 7. You got to have 4 starters. And I think you have Pivetta be one of them. Yeah, Pavetta's the 4th, and then the other 3 are Erod, Sale, Eovaldi. And Houck is the guy, you know, you bring him in either as a setup guy if you need to, or, you know, if a guy it's a close game and the starter is getting taken out early, you bring him in there. That's just.
Go ahead. Sorry, I thought you were done.
No, I was just saying that's the role he's most valuable in this year, and I think something that people need that we need to remember is that just making someone a starter, I'd rather have an effective player. I'd rather have Houck pitching extremely well in the role he's in rather than be a less effective starter, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, with the role they have him in, they're putting him in a situation where he has the best chance of success. And we even saw in that 5-inning stint after when he followed Sale, that third time around, they started to hit him. You know, he gave up a home run, gave up another hit, and he was out of the game after 5 innings. Yep. Like, he's a 5-inning pitcher at most right now.
Yeah, I mean, he was clearly done.
He's a 5-inning pitcher. Yeah, he's a 5-inning pitcher at most, and I don't want to go into a game knowing I can only get a max of 5 innings out of him, and then he's burned for the rest of the series. I don't think that sets him up. It gives them the best chance to win.
Meanwhile, like, I'm comfortable with Chris Sale starting. The reason I'm comfortable with Chris Sale starting, Ian, is that if Chris Sale goes 2 innings in Game 2, okay, cool. Let's go to Houck. This is why you've got Houck. I'm comfortable going to Houck in the 3rd. It's not a crisis. You've basically just used Chris Sale as an opener for Houck. You could do the same thing with Erod. Say Sale gets you through 4, gets you through 5, right? Mm-hmm. Game 4, Eddie Rodriguez,
or Pivetta if he starts Game 4.
Game 3 with Erod, or Game 4 with Pivetta, whatever. Someone like whoever. I'm cool with that being the opener for Houck, essentially.
Yeah.
You know, I was saying in the Rays series, they match up so much and they platoon so much. What about just planning to have Sale go 2 or Rodriguez go 2 and then go to Houck? Exactly. Have the next game, Eovaldi on short rest gives you 2 innings, followed by a lefty. Like, you know, and it was like, who knows? You know, you follow him with Erod or something. I don't know. But, you know, you don't quite get to do that with the Astros, unfortunately, just because their top guys are their top guys, their top 7.
Yeah, they don't platoon really, except for catcher, right?
Well,
no,
they don't even platoon
yeah.
the catcher. I mean, Martin Maldonado started all 4 games of their series. They used the same players at every position except for center field, where Chas McCormick got one of the 4 starts and Jake Myers was in center, and they're both righties.
And I'm pretty sure in that game it was like Myers was like under the weather or something.
Yeah, that sounds right. So they basically have their starting lineup.
They don't platoon. Like, you know what lineup you're getting every game.
And they go 3 catchers because they don't have guys that they're working in as starters. Right?
Exactly.
Like, they've got their 9 and they're 1 through 7. The fact that Kyle Tucker hits 7th in this lineup is bonkers.
Yeah, because he's
bonkers.
Yeah.
He's one of the best hitters in baseball right now.
Their lineup is absolutely terrifying, as you said. It's
Altuve 1, Brantley 2, Bregman 3, Yordan Alvarez 4, Yuli. The 5th hitter actually the last couple of games is Correa, Yuli Gurriel 6th, Kyle Tucker 7th, followed by whoever the center fielder is and whoever the catcher is. So it's usually Myers Maldonado.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at their team too, like every single regular had an OPS plus over 100 except for the catchers.
Yeah.
Like, and that's like most of them are well over 100. Like Kyle Tucker was 147, Yordan was 136, Brantley was 119, Correa was 131, Altuve was 127. Like,
Altuve might have been their best hitter in the series. Him and
no, in the regular season.
Oh, the regular season. Sorry, I thought you were talking about the series.
Tucker was their best hitter in the regular season. Tucker or Gurriel. Gurriel had the highest average, but Tucker was 294, 359, 557 with 30 home runs. It's quite good.
Yeah,
and that's their 7 hitter. Like, they're just – this team matches, and it's going to be a battle for the Red Sox pitching staff. And that's I think, when if I had to, you know, have handicapped the field coming in, I would have loved to play the White Sox. I think the Red Sox would have crushed the White Sox.
You do?
And part of it is because their manager is just not cut out for the playoffs.
Yeah, La Russa.
Like, Tony La Russa is so far. Alex Cora would have put him in a pretzel with some of the decisions he would have done. Like, the thing, like, and this is a great example of how you can appreciate Alex Cora's greatness. Did you see Liam Hendriks' usage in that series?
I did not. He was just saving him for the 9th every game.
He pitched 3 times. They were down by a combined like 15 runs.
Yeah. I mean,
like, what is the point of having like a stud reliever like that if you're never going to use him in a tight situation? Like, La Russa's old school. We know that's how he does it, but it's just like, I think I was hoping
the game has passed him by.
Yeah, I was really hoping they play the White Sox because I think that would have been a great matchup for them.
Their lineup.
The Astros would have been my number 1 scariest opponent in the AL, and it's because of the lineup. And this is, you know, here we are. It's going to be a very interesting series, but they have weaknesses.
The pitching is a weakness. First of all, the biggest story is Lance McCullers came out of Game 4 with some kind of forearm pain. I guess he was in pain.
Forearm soreness, I think.
Soreness, they called it? Okay.
Yes. Which, for those who don't know, McCullers was coming off Tommy John surgery. This is his first season back.
Was it his first Tommy John?
I believe. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, fair.
But he's coming off Tommy John surgery.
Yep.
And yeah, that's concerning.
Forearm is not good.
That's not what you want to hear. And right forearm discomfort, as you said. You know, and he was coming off a great season. You know, he had a 3.16 ERA, 3.39 xERA, 3.52 FIP, 10.26 strikeout per 9. Like, you know, he's just a very good pitcher. I think he was an all-star. He's their ace, and you know they don't have Justin Verlander. It's not Greinke anymore. Their pitching staff is the young guys.
Yep.
You know, it's him, it's Framber Valdez, it's Luis Garcia. Those are their starters. I would assume one of Jose or Queedy or Greinke or both potentially will step into the rotation,
or Jake
Odorizzi, who they didn't even have on their roster. So you know they have that they have starters on paper, but it's just there's a lot of questions. And this is the other thing we saw with Shane McClanahan, we saw with Shane Baz. You never know how young pitchers are going to fare in you know those pressure situations. I don't think pitching a playoff game at home or, is very different than coming on the road to Fenway Park in game 3 facing, the Red Sox lineup that's clicking on all cylinders right now. So I do think that the Red Sox will be able to hit, and it's going to come down to will their pitching be able to hang on long enough? Because I will say the one thing the Astros do have is kind of like the Rays. They have a bunch of guys who throw really hard, and they do have, their entire pitching staff I would be comfortable throwing in a playoff game. We talked about it earlier, the Red Sox, they're basically throwing 2 spots where you're not comfortable at all pitching them.
Right.
The Astros have a bunch of guys who you throw out there. Presley throws hard, Graveman, Stanek, Christian Javier can give them some length, and he throws really hard. Yimi Garcia, Phil Maton, all those guys are hard throwers. And I think the one area that the Red Sox could look to expose them is they only have one lefty in their bullpen. As of now. Maybe they could bring back Blake Taylor potentially if they have to take McCullers off the roster. But Raley is someone who gets absolutely destroyed by righties. Like he gave up like a 470 slug, 260 average, like a 7 ERA against righties this year. Lefties he's very good against. And if the Red Sox, with the way their lineup is, they're vulnerable against lefties. They can't put their best lineup out against lefties. And so with there only being one lefty reliever, I do think that gives them some sort of a little bit of an advantage over some other teams that might have, more established left-handed relief options to throw at Devers, Verdugo, Schwarber, guys like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we'll have to see how the matchups wind up working out, how the Astros play it. I also forgot Dusty is their manager. I forgot about Dusty. We'll see how he plays it. We'll see if they add old friend Marwin Gonzalez to the roster. He was not on the roster for the ALDS.
I think it's interesting too that they carried 5 bench position players. They had just had the extra catcher, whereas obviously, the Red Sox decided to have an extra pitcher instead. So it'll be interesting to see if they keep that in a 7-game series, or if they drop down and have just a 4-man bench and add the extra arm.
Yeah, I mean, you would think. I mean, they also didn't carry Blake Taylor. They didn't carry Odorizzi, you were telling me, because he didn't want to pitch out of the bullpen.
Or he's not comfortable. He's not
comfortable
pitching out of the bullpen.
Do you add him back if there's no McCullers, and then you add Blake Taylor in place of the third catcher?
Exactly.
Knock Garrett Stubbs off. I don't know. This is going to be an exciting series. We'll see how it goes, man. It starts Friday night. We'll go from there.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. And as we kind of talked about, just gonna wrap this up at the beginning. Just enjoy it. Like I know it's gonna be stressful. There's gonna be some angry moments, I'm sure. But at the end of the day, the playing with house money. This is a very successful season for the franchise. They've greatly exceeded expectations this year, and they've really built something to build and have something to build on going forward. And it's just gonna be really exciting. It's kind of a little, we'll talk about it a little more later, but having the realization that we're going to have to deal with the lockout this offseason, it's kind of ruining the potential, fun we could have with a full Chaim Bloom offseason. But
yeah, that's true.
We'll see what happens. We'll get there when we get there. And for now, let's just enjoy it while it lasts, because I think it's a coin flip series. Like I don't know who's going to win. It's October, as they say, anything can happen. And the way the Red Sox are hitting, if they keep this up, it'll be hard to stop them.
I think the Red Sox need. Well, their lineup is clicking, man.
Yeah, the key is they got to steal one in Houston, one of the first 2.
Yeah,
just get one in Houston and then get it home 1-1, and then you just go from there.
Yeah, I like their chances if they do that. I don't think that they need to, but I think that would be a drastic swing in there. It would be the first punch to the nose, right? Like.
Exactly.
See what they can do. And again, that starting rotation is really going to be the big thing, because Garcia and Valdez didn't have great starts in the White Sox series, but Garcia particularly. So we'll see how that goes. The Red Sox were able to handle rookie starters in the Rays series. We'll see how they do in this series. Although I guess they didn't hit McClanahan in the start, but once they saw him the second time around, they got to him. We'll see what they do in a 7-game series with some rookie starters. Moving on, Ian. What else do we have? I'm blanking. Yeah, I think that's it.
No, the 2 international signings. What that happened?
It's true. All right. I guess running down some quick transactions. The Red Sox kind of signed a couple of amateur free agents, Junior DeLanda and Smil Guzman. Ian really wants to mention them. They signed Smeagol, apparently.
No, I didn't. I was just kidding, but yeah.
Hey, you say it, I do it. Also, catcher Jacob Herbert retired. Herbert was a 2019 draftee in the 18th round, got 125K, full slot. This year, got into 3 games in the Florida Complex League before spending the last month of the season as basically the bullpen catcher in Salem. Decided to hang him up. Just, didn't get on the field a lot this year. Seemed like he might be interesting based on the signing bonus, but, happy trails to him. The Red Sox also just released 2 days ago catcher Alan Marrero, who was in Salem. He was in Greenville for some of the year, got demoted to Salem. He was basically an org catcher at this point. Good behind the dish, but, wasn't great with the stick. Spent the end of the year on the development list in Salem. Be interesting there. Seeing a guy get released now makes me wonder if he asked for the release and they granted it.
Yeah, I think you might be right, because
they don't just release guys in October 10th or 11th.
Right, because everything's going to happen over in the next 2 months, so it's just a weird time to just release a guy. So yeah,
he's probably going to be playing in the Puerto Rican Winter League, and so my guess is this allows him to kind of showcase for teams who know he's available.
Exactly,
being a guy on the Red Sox. So happy trails to Alan Marrero. Admittedly, won't miss having to look at box scores to see which Marrero was catching at a given level. Yeah, but that's about it. Do we have any updates on the Arizona Fall League game, Ian? I haven't been looking.
No, I don't think it starts till 9:30 because it's the last game of the day.
Because I thought it was 8:30, but Arizona does not do daylight savings, so
no,
it was 9:30.
It's the last game of the day.
It is.
I don't even know. It's stupid. You can't even see the AFL on the MILB app. Like, what are we doing?
Well, the MILB app is terrible.
I know, but like, what are we doing? Like,
well, and someone was saying today, like, how much would it cost to put cameras in at the 6 Arizona Fall League parks?
Yeah, I texted someone with a team, and I was like, so do you know if these games are going to be on televised? He laughed, and I was like, he was like, probably not, because I don't know why, but no.
Well, they probably also don't want to pay announcers, and they're not just going to stream a game with no play-by-play. Is the problem?
I would be perfectly fine with them streaming a game with no play-by-play.
I would too, man. I'm not.
Hopefully we'll be able to get some reports from out there. I know that, and then hopefully the TrackMan is working in the stadium.
Yes,
which
would be awesome.
Fingers crossed would be nice if it is. So we'll kind of see. But yeah, we kind of talked about those guys last week, and it'll be interesting to see what Seabald does tonight and kind of how his stuff holds up. That's what I'm most interested to see, is because, as we talked about, his stuff has been down, pretty much a full grade with his fastball, and he doesn't have feel for his changeup since he came back from his elbow, soreness. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he looks like when he gets out there.
We've only got one email this week. Again, it's podcast@soxprospects.com if you want to hit us up with an email. And it's following up, Ian, on a point from last week's podcast. Our friend Aaron says, since you asked in terms of context during the broadcast when they mentioned DeVern Hansack, he had that for us. He said, Jonathan Loaizaga is a Nicaraguan player, and listing famous other players, they threw in a, quote, and of course, the Red Sox legend DeVern Hansack. They then joked about his no-hitter later in the broadcast they did a callback to it. Honestly, he wasn't on my list of names to think about in 2021, but there you go. Also totally agree on what the StatCast broadcast is so much better. It's not the information so much as the vibe of 3 dudes who are just having a great time watching a baseball game. Completely agree, Aaron. Thanks for the email. Again, podcast@soxprospects.com. If you want to hit us up. And Ian, I think we'll keep this one short. There's not a ton to talk about. Keep it nice and compact for the homies out there. Thank you, as always, for those who support us on patreon.com/SoxProspects. And that, of course, includes our $5 level Patreon supporters. A list that currently includes Kyle Costigan, Tyler Woodrow, Jeff Trainer, David Nardone, Tim Harding, Bill Stanton, Deb Kendall, Evan Kirkwood, Hurricanes 1, Chris Fox, James O'Hara, Nathan Kenny, and Andrew Wallen, David B., Ben Burnett, Al Mendel, Kevin Catrides, Ben NRI, Paul Denyer, Lendl Martin, Cassandra Bukta, James P. McMahon, Stephen Gregory, James Bailey, Andreas Goldstrand, Corey Perrick, Forrest Perkins, Mark Herman, Aaron Meta, Jeff Harwood, Jimmy Mountain, Brian Cowan, Dusty G, Pavel, Jordan Chabot, Jeffrey Scruggs, Nicholas Staropoli, Bob Introne, Mike Kawano, Chris Bollier, Curtis Waltman, Michael Stewart, Keith Fox, Caleb Farron, John Kane, and Andrew K. Thank you all for your support. You can follow us on Twitter. Follow Ian at Ian Cundall. That's IANCUNDALL. Follow me at SP Chris Hatfield, and follow the site on Twitter and Instagram at Sox Prospects. Again, we said the podcast email a number of times. podcast@soxprospects.com. Hit us up. That's about it. Any parting words, Ian? Do I have to send you a link for Dancing on My Own? I think I do.
No, I know the song. I know the song. I just think when you listen back, you'll be like, oh, that's kind of weird what I said.
I mean, that's the point. Everything I say is weird.
Fair. But yeah, no, it's enjoy the playoffs, and we'll talk to you next week after I don't know how many games have been done. So what is it? Friday, Saturday.
I probably can't record until after Wednesday, so we might be.
So yeah, it'll be probably after 5 games. So we shall see.
Only 5 games at that point, I guess. Friday, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
So we'll be back after Game 5.
And we'll have some AFL to talk about too.
That's true. The first week. Let's go. Go get them. Thanks, y'all.